Rogan, like it's a bummer because, you know, he has this guest on who then deletes someone.
You have a head in your freezer? What's the purpose of that? That's nuts.
Ruslan.
Before we get into that, guys, my name is Ruslan, and this channel exists to encourage you to mastermind your business the master's way. All right, now let's get into the video. Communication is key for anything. Whether you are attempting to build a business, build a relationship, you have to know how to communicate, and it's important to know when you are potentially being manipulated.
I'm believing the guy to the point where I just said, I can't listen to this anymore. 1 month later, headlines are:
Ex-con turned criminal justice reform activist caught, police say, with a head in his freezer.
And so I want to dive back into this podcast to see what was I feeling at the time? Can we analyze that? And how can we take that into our lives for the more mundane kinds of manipulations that we might face every single day? So the first thing is this, and this is really, really key. You are going to be so much more prone to manipulation and falling for things that aren't true when the person who is doing it is receiving an MC from someone else. And what I mean by that is that you're receiving information about that person before you experience them that colors that experience. And this is what happened on the Joe Rogan podcast. Just listen. This is Josh Dubin, who runs the program that helped Sheldon to get his sentence reduced.
And I want to make clear, one thing that has always struck me about Sheldon is his vulnerability, but also his honesty. He has a remarkable story to tell and a perspective on his circumstances, the system, and he's someone that's taken responsibility for what he did.
In this, we get that Sheldon is responsible, honest. It was a minor offense, and there's many, many minutes of talking about how the criminal justice system was just sort of stacked against him. It's this kind of emceeing that can really color your perspective as someone. And for instance, where this might happen in your life, if you're ever reviewing a resume, whether it's your company or the company that you work at, if you see that someone went to a prestigious school or previously worked at a company and says that they had some huge initiative there, what you might tend to do is then go into that interview looking for things that confirm that and not trusting the gut part of you that says, this isn't adding up with the person that I'm experiencing in front of me. And that can be even more.
But the emceeing part, I never thought about that, right? And he goes on to say that the opposite is true. If someone's bad-mouthing somebody, right, don't let whatever the introduction of said thing be what taints your perception of the person. So that's interesting because in most ministry contexts and most business contexts, there is a degree of emceeing on authority, introduction, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us are susceptible to this.
It is how you meet people too, though, which is odd. You know, like one of the best marketing tools is word of mouth.
Right.
For that reason.
So I want to take you now to the second thing to focus on, or that you can tend to notice when you're listening to someone, is when they're sharing a story that they're embarrassed about or they feel shame over or they say that they're repentant for, do they express that they had control and have control, and are they taking responsibility? A really, really subtle way to...
That's good, right?
Taking responsibility.
But listen to what he points out to the very specific body language and the language he's using, the words that are coming out of his mouth regarding this.
All right. Can get communicated is in the switching between I and you pronouns. So to illustrate, here's I pronouns and also active verbs. Take a look.
Went to school for a week and I just dropped back out. I just saw no purpose in going to school. And I really didn't go back to school and really educate myself until I went to prison. Today, I'm pursuing a master's in human services.
So in that, we hear a lot of I saw, and also active verbs, I pursue. I want you to contrast that with when he starts talking about the incident that landed him in jail.
I felt like I couldn't back out of the situation. Nothing bad happened, but it's just the idea of sometimes growing up and adopting these values and these morals. Here. And you begin to take them on as part of your characteristics. And you end up making really, really bad decisions that can cost you for the rest of your life.
This is a...
Wow.
Is that good?
I want to hear what he has to say, but I would guess that there's this feeling of projection, that you're projecting that this is normal behavior by saying you instead of I.
You're taking the attention off of yourself, and you're saying, you know, like when it gets, you know.
That's actually a common rhetorical thing. You might say you to bring someone into a story for many different reasons. You've probably heard me in the course of this video say, this is something that you can see that you can see.
Can help you to detect subtle forms of manipulation.
It's not a problem when someone uses the word you. The question is when and why are they switching to it? And if they're telling a story that they are either potentially ashamed about, that they are claiming to have taken responsibility for, and you start to get the distance of you instead of I, that can be an indicator, a verbal indicator of what's occurring inside of them, which is they are separating themselves from the person who did that. A prior version of themselves, which is not taking full responsibility for that.
Come on,
now, this alone,
Charlie. Charlie's cooking.
That's nuts. That's such a subtle shift that makes a lot of sense. Because even I'll catch myself, you know, I'll be talking and whatever, and then like I'm talking to Samaje about taxes, right? And I'll Like, yeah, you want to save for, I needed to save for taxes.
Yeah.
Like, I'll catch myself and be like, this is something I actually needed to learn from, you know?
Right.
Crazy.
This is a big problem. But stacked up with what I'm going to show you next is where my radar started to go off. And here, what I want you to look for are shrugs, both physical shrugs, shoulders going up, and verbal shrugs.
That's the four got dismissed.
Got dismissed. I got
so
to
then
quit.
so then you come home.
So then I come home and, you know, I need my money. I need my money. It's just me being honest. It's just me being straight.
So we're getting to the part where the assault occurs, and you're going to hear a lot more of this and see a lot more of this. So what is a shrug? And I said the verbal shrug. I'll describe that in a moment. What a shrug is it's a gesture that says, I don't know. Why are you looking at me? It can be innocent, which is to say, you know, what's for dinner? And I go, I don't know. That's not my responsibility. I have nothing to do with that. But in situations where we're talking about things that someone is alleged to have done and alleged to have taken responsibility for, when we see a lot of shrugging, that can be an indicator that they're not there yet. It's also got that upturned palm, like, don't come to me. I got nothing for you here. We see the verbal shrug is when there's that upward inflection.
I need my money.
Like almost asking, what do you want me to do? I have no choice in this. You'll also get that sort of, you'll just look at his face, what's going on with his lips. I'm not exactly sure how to recreate it. That look that communicates to you that you're coming to the wrong person if you're looking for someone who's going to take responsibility for this. That string was
Robert De Niro.
I was like, Robert De Niro. What do you want? Huh?
What do you want?
Stop busting my balls.
All right, go ahead.
bad. But look at this next string.
On consignment, I gave him an eighth of a kilo, which is 125 grams of
We do
cocaine.
have some eye here.
And when I saw him, he had a bunch of jewelry on. He was with his girlfriend. She had a bunch of jewelry on. I said, hey, man, where's my money at? Oh, yo, I was going to pay you. As far as I was concerned, his jewelry we was even. So I robbed him.
There's the eye.
And I took his jewelry. And his girlfriend happened to be there. And unfortunately, she got caught up in the situation.
Now we have not just shrugs, but we have language that is really, really passive, really lacking in description. And it's tough to capture in some of these clips. This is a 2.5-hour podcast, and they dive deep in areas. But where there's really, you have a hard time getting clarity in what happened is in the offenses that occurred. Like, he is very quick to go over them. And
A buddy of mine, a tail sign is when someone is a good storyteller, but when it comes to a specific part, they get real vague. So a buddy of mine went to jail. And the reason why I'm so passionate about the Tate stuff, because I had a buddy of mine that went to jail for pimping and pandering. And whenever he would talk about that charge, he would speak with the most vague, dismissive tone about it.
Oh man, there's just a girl, and you know,
No, like worse than that. Like, I just can't really explain it to you, man. You know?
it's so hard
that.
to explain so many.
And then when he would talk about his robbery case, he'd get very detailed. Like, yeah, we was here, and but when
I only had 3 in the chamber, but I thought I had 4, and then it's like, wow, that was
very descriptive. Yeah,
quick to dismiss his culpability and responsibility for it. So she just happened to be there. Continue to listen to his language.
I had a bunch of young guys with me, and they robbed her as well.
They did it.
And he got hit in the head with the gun right here.
So to be clear, he organized this group of people to go there. They robbed her, and he got hit, which doesn't describe who did it. He'll later say that it wasn't him. But there's this out of control style of describing this entire thing, which is not responsibility taking. Responsibility taking acknowledges one's control. Now,
yeah, and then we beat him up. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
He just, oops, he got hit.
Yep.
Whoopsies.
I don't want to get deep into the socioeconomics of it, but a huge part of this podcast is the pieces that are out of people's control. And I'm really, really happy that they talk about that. It needs to be discussed. The ways in which the environment contributes to poverty, contributes to crime, deeply important. But if you're interacting with someone, any walk of life, who, when they review what happened, can't hold their responsibility in it, that's someone that I would say you probably don't want to be trusting to hold responsibility in the future.
On the side of his head, and he got 2 stitches, and they gave me 25 years for that case.
25 years, and it starts not making sense.
They gave me 25 years too. It's like very...
With a lot of they language, I think, says a lot.
Yeah.
And this is where, if you've seen some shrugs, you get the energy is off. This is where you might notice that stories don't add up. So that's one story that doesn't add up. But there was one prior that I didn't notice. It set me off the first time I listened to it, but it was only in rewatching that I went, oh, this was the moment that I went, I'm not sure about that. And Joe has the same reaction.
Wow.
Just for context, he's telling a story how at 10 years old in school, when kids would act up, the teacher would hit them on the hand with rulers with salt on their hands so that it would burn even more. And one day, the teacher went to do it to him, and he pulled his hand away and ran away from the teacher, ran into the hallway, and sprayed him with a fire extinguisher at 10 years old. And then, it's not exactly made clear, he spends 3 years in a psych ward as a result of this.
Fended for myself. I was out in the
So
street.
it was 3 years of that?
3 years of that.
For one instance where a guy's trying to hit you with a fucking ruler.
Yes.
Wow.
And so this brings up a very challenging experience for a lot of people, which is when someone comes to you with a story of victimization that might seem difficult to believe or outside of the normal bounds, how do we handle that? One school of thought has been believe victims. And I see that as a response to people who have been victimized. They've had stories that maybe we weren't ready to accept, that there was abuse going on in Hollywood or these other places. And in an attempt to correct for that, this believe victims mentality has crept in. And I think it's
they just believe all victims all the time.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you can tell it's like that story too. It's like, that doesn't.
Yeah.
You hit a teacher with a fire extinguisher?
Well, I think ultimately, and we'll link the video below to go and watch the 5th point. I think Charlie does a great job.
Yeah.
But there are these subtle little language and manipulation tools that are used by people to get what they want. What they
I'm trustworthy.
I'm trustworthy.
I was doing this.
And the bummer part is that, and Charlie made this point over and over again, like there is a time and a place to have a conversation about the criminal justice system. There is a time and a place to have a conversation about women who have been victimized, right? Like statistically speaking, it's very prevalent. It's very, and myself, like as a child, being a victim of SA. So there is a time and a place to have these conversations, and they're important conversations, necessary conversations. But we also can't be so naive to think that people, because they're eloquent, charming, good storytellers, that they are always the best representation for said conversations, right? And just because someone's persuasive doesn't mean they're right. And this can save you a lot of pain and heartache in business, because you're going to business with the wrong people, going business with the people that are charismatic, that are charming, that are good looking, that are slick, that have all right, and that can get you in a lot of trouble, right? Yeah. Now with Rogan, like it's a bummer because he has this guest on who then deletes someone.
Yeah.
And they're saying the deletion of said someone looks like it was someone he was in prison with. So this dude went to jail for decades.
Yeah.
Gets out early.
Yeah.
Gets his master's degree. Is doing work in this sector. And then seemingly, allegedly, deletes someone over a prison beef. And chops him up. And gets caught with...
That's next level. You got to admit, you kill someone over a prison beef.
He thinks he's Dexter.
Bro, you have a head in your freezer? What's the purpose of that? That's nuts.
Yeah, crazy. Thank you so much for watching that video. Guys, I believe that one of the best ways you can build a business is by first building a platform online. So Zach Sparazzo puts together a free training for you on the #1 metric you can be looking for to explode your YouTube platform. Click the link in the pinned comment below so you can start that now. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.